Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the November federal milk marketing data that was released this week. And have to admit, I was surprised to get it as early as I did because usually it's not all out until after the 14th or 15th. So I'm recording this on Saturday, December the 13th here. All right, so the big overview is statistical uniform prices weighted for the different regions were $16.60, and that is the lowest that I've been able to find since about Q1 of 2021. So these are extremely low statistical uniform prices. Now, class 4 is very low in price, so it came in, and class 3 is much, much higher, so it actually moved out of the pool significantly. When you kind of stand back and look at everything, it's clear that the pooled milk is down just because so much of class 3 went out. And my question, same as last month, is actual production about flat? And so I'm going to go with that at this point. Now, once again, fat was up about 10 ticks. So we've got just a tremendous amount of components in this milk. Start with the statistical uniform prices. So they were down 87 cents from last month. We were 17.47 last month, and we fell that down to 16.60. The highest is usually in Florida, and that's still the case at 21.50, and the lowest was California, down below 15 at 14.76. Now remember that the skim prices will change for December, so we may see a bump up in December, but that may be partly just due to mathematics here. So here's a change in the uniform prices. It's going to be controlled partly by depooling and partly by the differences. Now, 3 and 4 were different by $3.30, so just a huge, huge difference. That's why people brought class 4 into the market, which is a lower price, and took class 3 out, which is a higher price. And depooling always is going to lower the statistical uniform price. With class 1 down $1.29, we've got several of these in the southeast that are down, close to a buck. And the areas that brought class 4 in and took class 3 out are going to be down that buck also. So again, a lot of these are down, well over $1, and then there are those that are at 43 cents or 78 cents in California and the Northwest. So what I like about the federal milk marketing data is try to estimate where USDA is going to come in with the next milk production report. So when we look at the actual daily changes, there's lots of red on here. And in fact, overall milk was 94.2%. So we're down, 5.8% month over month. Now, a lot of that is depooling again. If we look at class 1, 2, 3, and 4 without 3, we're actually up about 1 percentage point. But again, some of that class 4 came in. Looking at the big picture here, this is the overall capacities. They say overall milk came down, class 3 came really down, class 4 came up a little bit, and class 2 was largely unchanged there. So what am I going to do for my estimate? I think I'm going to stick with what has been historical month over month, and I'm going to go with 100% of October. So for November, I'm going to suggest that we're going to have about 18.8 billion pounds of milk, and that's a 4.8% increase year over year. So a couple of things to keep in mind. Last month I said we were pretty well flat, and we ended up down about 0.5%. So again, I missed it by a little bit, and we were actually on the down. And number two is year over year numbers are lapping over bird flu in California. So we had significantly low production last year, so these year over year increases really aren't relevant. Just look at this class 3, it just has really collapsed in use. So right now we're down about 73% of the milk in the pool is probably out, and I'm using the capacity is what we've ever had in the plant capacity. So we're down about 73% of the milk is out of the federal pool at this point. The class 1 utilization as a percentage was actually up. It was like 32.3 last month. We're 33.4. The highest class 1 is always in the southeast down here, well over 70. So when we look at class 3, the highest class 3 utilization is still Minnesota, Wisconsin. They are just normally about 88 to 90% class 3. Then we can see where the different regions actually change. Now, these are all in percentage points. So, for example, Order 32 has got 7.25% class 3. They came down at 11.75. So it means last month they were about 19% class 3. So that's how you read these. So the biggest ones that change class 3 utilization are going to be order 33, which is Michigan and Ohio, order 32, which is kind of the midsection, and then Arizona came down 8.3 ticks there. Class 4 came in, so this is all green. The highest class 4 is still California. They always live and die by class 4. And we can see which areas actually increased their class 4 the most. So Arizona came up 9 ticks and order 32 came up 7 ticks. So quite a bit of class 4 came back in those two regions. Components were high, as I said. The highest was in the Northwest at 4.61 for fat. That's just absolutely incredible. Texas was as high as 4.58, and actually Florida is over 4 at this point. Overall, we were up about 10 ticks. We were 331 last month in October. Now we're 441. So again, about a 10-point increase. And there are rumors about a fat quota up here in kind of the Michigan area. I mean, we're going to have to do something to lower these components, or the butter prices are going to continue just to head to the cellar here. The same with protein. These are very, very strong. Texas was the highest at 3.6. Northwest almost that at 3.57. And then the Northeast is always the lowest, but still 3.38 is very respectable. So here's our calendar. Finally, we're going to get back, I think, to some normalcy here. So this week we had the statistical uniform prices that I just reported here. The export data was actually fairly strong. Cheddar was exported at $1.97, and then probably almost 10% of our production got exported. This next week, we're going to have agricultural prices and the dairy products. Again, that's a month late. I think on the 22nd is when we're going to get back on the regular schedule. So that's when we'll have the milk production report and the cold storage report. And then, they'll start following on the typical schedule after that. So we've got about another 2 weeks of catch up here. So I will get you a milk market tidbit for the dairy products report that comes out on Monday.